Hey, how's everyone doing? Today we're going to discuss some recent comments that one of the developers made directly to a player about the current state of the game. We'll also take a closer look at some more statements made by a former developer. Then to wrap up the video, we'll discuss the future of Bethesda. So with that being said, make sure that you give this video a thumbs up, and we're going to go ahead and talk about this right now. First, starting off, we're going to talk about what the developers have recently said to one user who made a hefty review over there on Steam. The interesting thing here is that I have actually talked about something quite similar, but it was a different developer. So with that being said, you may have seen a previous video where I talk about this Bethesda developer right here named Bethesda_Narati. The only reason why I am bringing this up again is because it's going to serve a greater purpose. Because before I do move on and talk about what this next developer has said, you do need to pay attention to one of the paragraphs that this developer had said in this review. This Bethesda developer named Narati says, quote, "Empty planets. Some of Starfield's planets are meant to be empty by design, but that's not boring. When the astronauts went to the moon, there was nothing there. They certainly weren't bored," end quote. And I could continue on there, but the reason why I'm reading that paragraph specifically is because it seems like something that almost all the developers have to say. The only reason why I'm saying that is because in this next review, you're going to see a new developer that says almost the same exact sentence. If you take a look on the screen here, you're going to see a huge review that was written by this player named Soso. Then a developer named Bethesda_Falco Yamako replied back saying this right here, quote, "Greetings, we are sorry to hear Starfield didn't live up to your expectations. Some of Starfield's planets are meant to be empty by design, but that's not boring. When the astronauts went to the moon, there was nothing there. They certainly weren't bored. The intentions of Starfield's exploration is to evoke a feeling of smallness in players and make you feel overwhelmed. You can continue to explore and find worlds that do have resources you need or hidden outposts to look through," end quote. I'm going to stop just right there for a brief second because does that not sound quite familiar to what Narati had said? What the heck is going on here? Do we just use some chat GBT crap? What? I'm so confused. But anyways, the rest of this is original, and we're going to see what this person had to say. Bethesda_Falco Yamaoka continues on to say, quote, "Quests were made to be completed in several ways. You get to decide who lives and who dies at crucial points of the story, as well as how to go about meeting any given objective. If you are looking to feel OP, we recommend looking at completing the quests that grant you special powers to go along with your heavy weaponry. If you don't feel unstoppable then, we are not sure you will feel like that in any game," end quote. We are going to pause for a brief moment here because first and foremost, you do not get to decide who lives and who dies in Starfield. For example, if you're playing the deep cover mission and you decide that you want to portray the captain over there in the UC Vigilance, well guess what? When you do shoot him, he's just going to be down in that recovery state, but he's going to pop right back up and shoot at you. So no, you cannot decide who lives and who dies in Starfield. Now sure, are there quests out there that will allow you to take out the NPC that's related to that quest? Yeah, but for the most part, you cannot just choose anybody out there in the open world and take them out. Otherwise, I would have just head straight to Constellation and wiped out the whole entire group so that I could be a true Starborn. Well, at least the bad version. One could dream though. But anyways, let's continue on with what this developer had to say. Quote, "We recommend playing around with shipbuilding and increasing the difficulty you play on. If you find it overwhelming, it's a completely different experience playing a fast ship that can dodge projectiles versus a slow tank of a ship that is shooting at enemies in a shield depletion race. Outpost creation is helpful for those who want to be able to craft resources or to proceed with building an area where advanced research can be done, like alien breeding. You will always gain lots of XP for your production progress, as well as the ability to continue to expand your own outpost," end quote. Then down below they have all the stuff like, hey, feedback, links and all that. But really, this developer is just completely out of touch. Because whether it's this developer or the other one, they both kind of tell you that you have to enjoy the game essentially. Because if you do have something negative to say, they pretty much correct you and tell you that you're wrong. Now to make things worse, this same exact developer goes on to say that if we do not feel OP in Starfield, then most likely likely you're not going to feel that way in any game, which is just a completely stupid thing to say, because you can see right here it says, quote, if you don't feel unstoppable, then we are not sure you will feel like that in any game, end quote. This is a completely false statement to make. So essentially what this developer is saying is if you do not feel OP or satisfied with Starfield, then you're not going to feel the same exact way if you head to something like, I don't know, Cyberpunk, for example, which you can absolutely feel OP in Starfield and also feel OP in Cyberpunk. But if you do not feel overpowered or unstoppable in Starfield, then you're not going to feel that same exact experience in any other game. Pretty much what this developer is saying, and I find that statement completely dumb. I do not have anything else left to say to this post because it seems just ridiculous the more I think about it, but I'm interested in what you all think about what this developer has said, and how do you feel about the repetitiveness there at the beginning where they both said the same exact thing about the moon? If I had any guess, I would say it's some sort of template that they're forced to use because, again, both of them said the same exact thing. Anyways, I'm just clueless about everything that Bethesda does in general, but let's go on and talk about something different here because there appears to be a huge game-breaking bug now. And sure, I've talked about a lot of them, but this one definitely takes the cake. If you take a look on the screen here, this Reddit username alternative_cod_1276 said this right here, quote, what is this? Why did it happen? And what do? I was at 6 days, 17 hours playtime, end quote. Then if you take a look at the image here, yeah, it's obviously corrupted. It says this save game is corrupt and cannot be loaded. This means if you would like to try to reload a save back up, it's just going to pop up the same exact message. Now there is a possibility where you could probably load up an old save through cloud, but that's a big if you do have something like that in your cloud. Most of the time you probably do not. For example, here's some more proof. This Reddit user named Worst Glacier had this to say, quote, corrupted save games at certain levels. I ran into a bug that seems to be uncommon. When I reached level 280 with my first character, all save games with this level couldn't be loaded. The game goes to a black screen after loading and then crashes to dashboard. I deleted the game and reinstalled it. Afterwards, I created 5 new characters and leveled them up again. As soon as I reached levels around 275 plus, the saves got corrupted again. In some saves, I just collected the skill points without investing them, and in some, I invested them all in all available skills. Did anyone notice something similar? End quote. This bug apparently is not causing problems with your level. Instead, it just pops up out of nowhere because this Reddit user comments down below saying, quote, happened to me at level 50. Sorry, no fixes, end quote. There's really nothing you can do. If you would like to try to revert back to an old save, you can try, but I guarantee you're just gonna run into the same exact issue. The best case scenario is that you just leave the save as it is. I mean, feel free to, I don't know, go through another playthrough, but honestly, I would wait till this next patch arrives. Possibly it might just fix those saves because Cyberpunk essentially did the same exact thing where their saves were completely messed up, it was corrupted, and then they released another patch and it fixed the issue. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the future of Bethesda and Starfield. There is no denying that Starfield is in a troubled state right now with all the bugs that have popped up as of late, and on top of that, the lack of communication from Bethesda has been a terrible experience, not just for me, but for all of us. And sure, they have responded recently, but it took them almost 2 months to make a proper post about patches and betas and bugs and all that. And to make things worse, most of these developers have either retired or they've left the company. For example, Jeff Gardner, he was over there at Bethesda helping out Fallout 76, and then he probably realized things are going south and eventually went over and created something Wicked Games, and he's currently the CEO and a founder. And just recently, Will Shin, a lead quest designer, departed from Bethesda and subsequently joined Something Wicked Games, which this is quite interesting because a good portion of the developers have actually quit and then hopped over to Something Wicked Games. And on top of this, a former Bethesda employee that's now retired, Bruce Nesmith, said that basically things were not the same as it used to be. Bruce would go on to talk about how it was easy to talk to Todd and how things were just completely completely different back then. Bruce would go on to say that it was easier to communicate with Todd Howard and possibly be able to discuss ideas and kind of implement different things into the game. And speaking of Todd, when he does decide to retire, I think that's going to leave an empty spot over there at Bethesda. I'm not sure who's going to be able to fill in that seat, but it's definitely going to be difficult. I'm interested in what you all think about this current situation, and also let me know what you think about everything else that we've talked about in today's video. If you have any questions, please comment down below. Other than that, thank you guys for the support, and I'll see you all in the next one.